Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Aubrey Pavlik, Signature Cruise Experiences Director of Guest Services and Communications. I'm so glad that you've all taken the time to join us for today's webinar, where we're going to highlight the special curated shore excursions available on both of our upcoming West Coast sailings, so the Smooth Jazz Cruise and Chris Botti at Sea. Chris had actually hoped to join us today live. He's currently in Australia on tour. Unfortunately, the time difference made that a bit more challenging than expected. So he did actually record a special message for everyone who's joining us today, and we'd love to share that with you now.
In 2005, I had the great opportunity to open up for Josh Groban, and getting to see him perform every night really lit an idea under my own brain to play in a lyrical, classical way. Of course, his inclusion on Live in Boston DVD was so extraordinary. He's become a dear friend. We've gone out and made music all over the place together. I'm thrilled that he's joining us for Botti at Sea as we set sail for our third year from Los Angeles all the way up to Victoria. Take care, everyone, and we hope to see you on board.
As you just heard, Chris, along with all of us here at Signature Cruise Experiences, is incredibly excited to welcome Josh Groban, his great friend, on board Botti at Sea. We are truly honored to have him joining. It's already an extraordinary lineup. We can't wait to see what his special performance is in store. For those of you who are on Smooth Jazz Cruise who might not yet be sailing on Botti, we do have some staterooms available. So if that announcement has you thinking about extending your vacation, give us a call if you'd like to. Okay, now I'm going to pass things over to Brad Pavlik, who happens to be my husband and our Director of Cruise Operations. He is going to walk you through all the details of the excursions that we have planned for these sailings. So, Brad?
All right. Thank you very much, Aubrey. As you all can see in front of you, we have the itineraries for these upcoming cruises, which we are very excited for. These are absolutely fantastic itineraries. We had the pleasure of doing this cruise on the Journey of Jazz last year, going from Vancouver down to Los Angeles. So experience this itinerary. It is, again, just a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. And absolutely fantastic cruising. So the Smooth Jazz Cruise will leave out of Vancouver on September 11th. We will go to Victoria, British Columbia, which is, for those who have been, one of the most beautiful ports in the world, with the great city of San Francisco for 2 days where we are overnight. And then we will finish the Smooth Jazz Cruise in Los Angeles. We will start Chris Botti at C3 out of Los Angeles, make our way back up to San Francisco, where we'll once again be overnight on September 20th and 21st. And then we will finish the cruise with our last port of call in Victoria for a full day, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then we will finish Chris Botti at Sea in Vancouver. So once again, just an incredible part of the world, and absolutely fantastic cruise, whether you are going from Vancouver to Los Angeles on the Smooth Jazz Cruise or from Los Angeles back up to Vancouver on Botti at Sea. All right. Well, as Aubrey mentioned, we're going to take a lot of time today talking about the various tours that we have set up while we're in port. As those who have cruised with us before know, we have a full onboard program, and our onboard music events go into the late evening on these cruises. Because of the unique ports of call, we were able to set up a lot of really great tours that we think you all are going to enjoy. So while we are overnight in San Francisco on both cruises, we have a number of wine tours going up to Napa Valley and Sonoma. We have a number of culinary tours hitting some really unique and fantastic restaurants in San Francisco. We have sightseeing tours in both Victoria and in San Francisco. And lastly, we have a land-based show at SF Jazz, which again, we'll talk a bit about that as we go through the presentation, but just an absolutely incredible venue, jazz venue in San Francisco. We did a concert there last year, and it's just, in my opinion, one of the best places in the world to see a show. And we have a show on not only Smooth Jazz Cruise, but on Chris Botti at Sea. So there is a lot of opportunity for things to do in the ports of call on these cruises. Well, let's start with our culinary tours. And before I talk about each of the restaurants. Something that many of you may have read on our website is about the person that helped curate and help me select a number of these restaurants. His name is Michael Bauer. Many of you who are into the food scene or the San Francisco food scene, especially, will probably know the name Michael Bauer. He was the executive food and wine editor at the San Francisco Chronicle for 32 years. So obviously just a wealth of knowledge on food and wine, but especially on the San Francisco food and wine scene. So we have, as I mentioned, we have a number of culinary tours on both cruises, Smooth Jazz and Botti at Sea. The restaurants are primarily the same, minus one addition, which we will talk about as we move forward here. But on Tuesday, September 15th, on the Smooth Jazz Cruise, we will be having brunch at Abaca. Abaca, kind of a challenging restaurant to explain. It is a California Filipino-inspired restaurant. I know that sounds interesting probably to a lot of you. It was named in 2025 by the New York Times as one of the 50 best restaurants in the country. We did a tour there last year, and it was absolutely fantastic food. The chefs, Francis and Dianang, are from the Philippines, and this has truly become the best Filipino restaurant in the United States. So if you are interested in kind of branching out or learning about Filipino food, this would be an exceptional tour for you to do. Something to note, Michael Bauer, again, who is kind of curating all of these tours, will be a part of all of these dining experiences. So it'll kind of help guide you through what you are experiencing. On September 15th as well, we will have lunch at Angler. Angler is a Michelin-starred seafood restaurant. It is best known for their 30-foot wide open flame grill that is in the middle of the restaurant that you can see from anywhere that you are sitting in the restaurant. And Angler's motto is everything that goes in and out of the kitchen is kissed by fire. So it touches this grill in some form or fashion. Again, we operated a tour here last year, and I've actually been fortunate to dine there a number of times. And again, if you are into seafood at all, this would be the tour that I would recommend for you on September 15th. That evening, while we're overnight in San Francisco, we will have two different dinner excursions. The first one is it's called A16. A16, as many of you will know, is a famous highway that goes right through Tuscany in Italy. So A16 is owned and operated by a woman named Shelley Lingram, who is a James Beard Award-winning wine program. She has set this up, and something that is really fascinating, her knowledge of Italian wine goes so deep. She's actually been knighted by the Italian government. So if you are interested in learning about Italian food and wine, especially Italian wine, this would be the tour for you. It is going to be a seasonal Italian menu, again, with an Italian wine tasting. So it's going to be a fantastic tour. And again, if you are interested in learning about Italian wine at all, getting to meet Shelley Lingram, this would be the person for you to meet and the tour for you to do. And then lastly, that evening, we will have dinner at Seven Adams. Seven Adams is another Michelin-starred restaurant where we will do a 7-course tasting menu. The menu changes seasonally, so it's hard to say what we will have now. Last year, they did something completely unique just for our 12 guests that went on this tour. Again, highly, highly recommended. It will not be as segmented as going for just Italian, so it'll really be quite diverse dining experience. And again, we did this last year, and it was just a fantastic dining experience. The following day, Wednesday, September 16th, first thing in the morning at 9:30, we'll be having brunch at Parachute. Parachute is a French-inspired bakery that opened last September. Our guests, in fact, on Journey of Jazz last year were the first people that got to experience the opening of the bakery. It is in the famed San Francisco Ferry Terminal, so it's a very short walk from where we'll be docked. It's less than 10-minute walk. So again, if you are into French pastries at all, croissants, chocolate croissants, passion fruit croissants, this would be an excellent tour for you. Then there also will be some breakfast items that are included as well on this tour, and you're just gonna have absolutely beautiful, vibrant bay views from the location of the restaurant in the ferry building. For lunch that day, we will be dining at Skoma's. So many of you may be familiar with Skoma's. Skoma's is a third generation owned and operated restaurant. It opened in 1958. And something that is very unique about Skoma's is each day the catch is brought directly to the restaurant. So, a very funny story, the original owner used to provide coffee to the fishermen in the morning, and that was how he lured the fishermen to bring their fresh catch to Skoma's prior to going to any of the other pierside restaurants in San Francisco. And that is a tradition that has continued since the late 1950s. You'll have a tour of the pier. Skoma's now has their own private pier, so you have a tour of the pier, and then you will have lunch in a private room. So again, if you this is really quintessential San Francisco. Think scallops, local snapper, cioppino, crab deviled eggs, oysters. Again, we did this one last year as well, and it was absolutely fantastic. And then last but certainly not least, lunch at Yang Sing. So Yang Sing, iconic San Francisco dim sum restaurant, founded in 1959. This is another third generation family restaurant. They will create a special menu just for us, but you'll get soup dumplings, many of the pork dumplings, pea shoot dumplings. It's really a classic tableside experience at Yang Sing. And again, if you ask most people within the San Francisco food scene, if you're going to go to one place in San Francisco for dim sum, where would it be? It would be Yang Sing. And on Chris Botti, we are going to be doing um, mostly all of the same restaurants that we just talked about. On September 20th, we'll be doing brunch at Abaca, lunch at Yang Sing. We will have the food and wine dinner at A16 and dinner at Seven Adams on the first night, September 20th, while we're overnight in San Francisco. And the second day on September 21st, we will have brunch at Parachute, lunch at Skomas, and then the one difference is on September 21st, we will be having lunch at Water Bar rather than Angler as we are on Smooth Jazz. So Water Bar sits right at the base of the Bay Bridge. So you're going to get absolutely incredible views of the Bay and the Bay Bridge. Again, this would be for people who are really interested in seafood. So oysters, broiled scallops, your mussel, cedar plank trout. That's what Water Bar is known for. And one little known fact is Water Bar actually has the largest oyster bar in North America. So again, if you are into seafood, especially oysters, Water Bar would be a great choice for you on the afternoon of September 21st. All right, let's talk about our wine tours that are happening while we're in San Francisco on September 15th and 16th, and September 20th and 21st on Botti at Sea. So we are going to have Napa Valley Wine Train, Gourmet Express Lunch, and the Vista Dome Lunch. So I'm just going to give you a highlight of the tours we're doing, and then we'll talk a little bit more about them. We will go to Napa Valley to Sterling Vineyards and Frank Family. And then in Sonoma, we will visit Donham Estate and Buena Vista Winery on day one on both cruises. And then on day two, we'll be visiting Donham Estate and Etude Wineries. And then on the 20th of September, unfortunately, because it was the only day that the winery was available on Chris Botti at Sea, we'll be visiting Francis Ford Coppola's winery. So again, that is only on September 20th. But we'll talk a bit more about each of these tours as we move on here. Okay, the Napa Valley Wine Train. This is really a very, very cool experience. So you will leave the ship, and we have about an hour and a half drive to 2 hours to where the Napa Valley Wine Train will take off from. But there's two different train carriages that we will operate on here. The first one, where we have the Gourmet Express Lunch, is a 1915 Pullman rail car. You'll have a 3 hour tour that will take you all around the Napa Valley for fantastic views. There will be a three-course lunch that you'll have, and then there is a welcome glass of sparkling wine, and then there's also various wine flights that can be purchased throughout the 3-hour journey on the train. Again, it is just a really kind of scenic, beautiful tour of Napa Valley. We ran a tour there last year, and guests absolutely raved about this experience. We then also have the Vista Dome. The Vista Dome is unique because it is a carriage that sits higher up in the air, and it is a 1952 Pullman Vista Dome observation cart, and you have 360-degree panoramic views from this carriage. So it's basically everything around you is surrounded by glass. So again, you have excellent views on this. Something really interesting about this 1952 Pullman Vista Dome, it is one of 10 carriages that was made. So it is an incredibly rare train carriage that is, still around, and we have the ability to have guests on. This you'll have a four-course wine country inspired lunch, again paired with welcome glass of sparkling wine, and there'll be a number of glasses of wine or wine flights that you could purchase during the tour. And again, really excellent photo opportunities on the Vista Dome. Now, as many of you have seen probably, this tour did sell out relatively quickly. There is still some space open on this tour on Chris Botti at Sea on the 21st of September. And then there is space on all of the Gourmet Express lunch tours on both days on the Smooth Jazz Cruise and both days on Botti at Sea. Something that is going to be fun for people who are on this tour, we have managed to have some of our artists free up some time in their schedule to be able to join this tour and get to spend some time with our guests. So on Tuesday, September 15th, Jonathan Butler and Mindy Abair are going to be joining this tour, two of our smooth jazz favorites. On Wednesday, September 16th, Candy Dolfer and Marcus Anderson, two more of our smooth jazz cruise favorites, will be joining the Gourmet Express and the Vista Dome. So again, if you're looking for maybe a little bit of time to hang with one of these artists, this would be a great time to do so during the tour. And then on Chris Botti at Sea on September 20th, John Splitoff and Benny Benak III will be joining the tour. And on the 21st, Morgan James and her husband Doug Womble will be joining the tour. So again, just a nice opportunity for the artist. Lucky to have some free time in their schedule and be able to join our guest on this tour. Okay, moving on to the Napa Valley, Sterling Vineyards, and Frank Family Tour. So this will be available on all 4 days that we are in port in San Francisco. So 9/15, 9/16, 9/20, and 21. As many of our Smooth Jazz Cruise guests know, it is sold out on the 15th, but there is space on the 16th still for this tour. So the tour will start at Sterling Vineyards, and I think one of the most unique things about Sterling Vineyards is you are going to take a gondola hundreds of feet above sea level into the air to go to the vineyard. So you in essence are going to take what you would take at a ski resort to get up to the winery. So again, when you get up to Sterling, you have great views of the Napa Valley. You will then something that's really interesting about this, if you are into Bordeaux wines, these are your Bordeaux-inspired red wines in California. So that's what Sterling is really known for. So you'll have a tour of the property, and we'll do a tasting at Sterling Vineyards. Before moving on to Frank Family, many of you may be familiar with Frank Family wines. They've become very, very popular over the last 5 years. You'll have lunch at the Miller House in Frank Family, and that is the room the picture that is the bottom left-hand side of the slide here. And you'll have lunch with a three-course lunch with wine tasting. Prominent varietals that you'll taste will be Cabernet, Chardonnay, Petit Tron, Pinot Noir during these tours. So really interesting Napa Valley, very kind of quintessential Napa Valley wineries that you'll be visiting with Sterling and Frank Family. All right. In Sonoma now, we have Donham Estate, Buena Vista Winery, and Etude. So on day one of both cruises, so the 15th and the 20th, we'll be visiting Donham Estate and Buena Vista. And on day two, we'll be visiting Donham Estate and Etude wineries. So one thing that is unique about Donham, other than their fantastic wine, is they have one of the largest sculpture art collections in North America. So you'll have a full tour of the Donham House, the Rose Gardens, Century Gardens, that will culminate in a private seating tasting paired with a number of canopies. Once you do that, you will then move on to the historic Buena Vista Winery. So something unique about Buena Vista was actually founded in 1857 by the Count of Buena Vista, and it was the first premium winery in the Napa Sonoma region. Again, very historic winery. You'll then have lunch at Buena Vista, which will be a pairing, and the lunch is actually going to be catered by a restaurant some of you may be familiar with called The Girl and the Fig, which is downtown Sonoma, and just a really exceptional restaurant. So again, that is Donham and Buena Vista, which is day one on both cruises. We then have Donham and Etude Winery, and again, with Donham, you will get the same kind of tour of the Donham Estate and Century Gardens that I talked about already. And then Etude is really going to be a Pinot Noir driven tasting and lunch experience. So if you are into Pinot Noirs, my recommendation to you would be to do the Donham Estate and Etude Winery. Okay, moving on to unique experience that I had mentioned earlier is a tour of the Francis Ford Coppola Winery. So this is going to be a director's cut tasting. Again, Coppola is one of the most popular wines, become one of the most popular wines in the world. So most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the director's cut, which is kind of his elevated label within his kind of wine labels. So you will do a director's cut red tasting, director's cut white tasting, and then a sparkling or rosé tasting. Something that is very interesting about this winery is there are a number of items from Francis Ford Coppola movies that are placed throughout this winery. So you're gonna have a tour of the winery, and you're gonna see items that were in The Godfather. You're gonna see, The Godfather's desk. It again it's a very, very cool experience. And I think something a lot of you are gonna have a lot of fun on. And once you have the tour of the property, get to take some pictures. You will then have a three course lunch served family style, with of course more wine. All right, I am going to now turn it over to our Director of Talent Management, Mr. Gene Dobbs Bradford, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about SF Jazz, which we mentioned earlier.
Hey, thank you very much, Brad. It was Brad mentioned SF Jazz is one of the best places to hear live jazz. As a matter of fact, it was built in it was opened rather in 2013, and was recognized as the first freestanding building in America specifically built for jazz performance and education. SF Jazz started as the San Francisco Jazz Festival, and it was a festival that was presented in various venues around San Francisco. And eventually, they got to the point where they could build their own building, and they spared no expense in making sure that it was done right. And when you're there, you're going to see a facility that was designed. I actually have worked with the acoustician that designed the space in there, and everything, the surfaces that were chosen, the angles, everything was designed with sound in mind. And so it's a wonderful place to hear jazz. And I know that people are going to enjoy being there. On Wednesday, and we have some wonderful acts that are going to be performing there that we've been working with SF Jazz to present. The first one on September 16th is going to be Brian Simpson, who's a fantastic pianist. Actually, he was at one time the music director for the Smooth Jazz Cruise. So he's a welcome part of the Smooth Jazz Cruise family. And he's going to be joined by an absolutely extraordinary performer, the dynamic saxophonist and vocalist Grace Kelly. This is going to be a wonderful show. Grace always brings the heat, and Brian Simpson, with them together, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be high energy, and it's going to be really a lot of fun to hear them in this wonderful venue. And then moving on to the performance that we're going to have during the Chris Botti at Sea cruise. We have one of my favorite groups. This is absolutely one of my favorite groups in all of jazz, and that's the Branford Marsalis Quartet. The folks who've been in this quartet, the thing that I really love about them the most is that they have all been playing together for a long time, and that creates a situation where you actually have like a language that all the members of the group speak. And when you have that kind of a connection between the members of an ensemble, the music making is elevated to superior levels. And I think that you really get a chance to see and appreciate and enjoy the intricacies of great jazz ensemble playing in a way that's really beautiful because everybody in the group, one of the hallmarks I think of their style is it's very melody based. Even though it is harmonically very rich, it's something that you're going to enjoy. Branford really focuses on melody and melodic exploration. So this is going to be just fantastic. And if you are a jazz fan, as I am, this is like the cream. This is the cream of the crop. So I would say if you're on Chris Botti, do yourself a favor and check out one of my favorites, the Branford Marsalis Quartet at SF Jazz Center. And I'm going to be there for both of these, and I look forward to seeing you there.
All right, thank you very much, Gene. As mentioned earlier, we also have sightseeing tours in San Francisco on September 15th and 16th and 20th and 21st, as well as some tours in Victoria. So I'm going to give you an overview of these tours that we're doing. So, first tour in San Francisco we'll be doing is Sausalito and Muir Woods. And as you can see, that tour is fully reserved on the 15th, but there's space on the 16th for our Smooth Jazz cruise guests. And Sausalito and Muir Woods tour, you're going to start by crossing the Golden Gate Bridge into Sausalito, which for those that don't know what Sausalito is, it is a very small colony village that is kind of an artist colony is how it started, and it is still a number of small art galleries and cafes and shops. Very quaint place just outside of San Francisco. From there, you will then move on and explore Muir Woods National Monument, which is 550 acres of towering redwood trees. So this is a half-day tour where you're going to get to not only see Sausalito, but you're going to get to see the Muir Woods. So again, very popular tour. As you can see, one day is already sold out. I would imagine the other days will sell out relatively quickly. Now the guests have some more information on that. So there's more information on all of these tours on our website for those who are interested. So that's just a general overview of Sausalito and Muir Woods. For Alcatraz Island and Sausalito, I think everyone is familiar with famous Alcatraz. So you will leave the ship and take a ferry to Alcatraz Island, where you'll explore the prison with an audio guide. And then from there, you will head to Sausalito to visit the artist colony, as we just spoke about. And so again, this is a bit of a longer tour. This tour goes a little over 5 hours. You'll leave the ship just after 9 a.m., come back a little bit after 2. But a tour that really is going to combine history, culture, and some scenic beauty of the surrounding area. We then have San Francisco and Golden Gate Bridge. So this is going to be really a panoramic tour of San Francisco via bus, where you're going to get to really see some of the highlights of the city. I would say this is a great tour if you're not interested in walking all over San Francisco or taking taxis all over. or again, maybe you have some mobility issues, this would be a great tour for you because you're going to really get a great overview of the city and a lot of knowledge from a local guide. So again, you're going to see the Golden Gate Bridge, Fisherman's Wharf, Ghirardelli Square, the famed cannery. So you're really going to get, again, a great overview of San Francisco and a lot of the highlights of the city. And then lastly, we have the 360 of Sausalito and the Golden Gate. So this would be a tour, I would say, for people who are really into getting those quintessential San Francisco pictures. As you can see from the picture at the middle, that is the famed kind of hill overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. You will get to visit that. And again, if you're really into taking pictures of San Francisco, Sausalito, the Golden Gate Bridge, this would be the tour for you. Again, you're going to get really elevated views from above the Golden Gate Bridge, and some of the other landmarks of San Francisco. All right, and then while we are in Victoria, we have 5 different tours on both cruises that will be happening. The first tour at the very top, Great Fermentations Wine and Distillery Tour. So this is going to be a fun one. Anyone who is looking to have a few drinks during the day, this would be a great tour for you. You're not only going to get a great tour of the Victoria countryside, you will then go to a local charming winery where you will have wine tasting paired with some local cheeses. From there, you will then be transferred to a distillery where you will do a distillery whiskey tasting of 2 different whiskeys and a craft beer tasting. There'll be snacks included in that. And then once you do your kind of 2 various tastings, you will then have a tour of the city that will take you kind of all around Victoria's highlights, finishing at the Empress Hotel, which is a historic landmark in Victoria, the oldest hotel on the island, absolutely beautiful, right downtown, and have a tour of the hotel before being taken back to the ship. We then have the Malahat Skywalk and Victoria Highlights Tour. So similar to 360-degree view of San Francisco, this is going to take you just over 800 feet above sea level over Victoria, where you're going to have views of the mountains, forests, and islands that all surround Victoria. On a clear day, you can see as far as Mount Baker in Washington. So again, you're going to have absolutely incredible views of Victoria, British Columbia, and really into Washington. Now, this is kind of difficult to explain, so I'd encourage anyone to look online or look on our website. There is a spiral staircase that you will slowly walk up that will take you to the very top for these 360-degree views. Then for those that would like to, there is a 64-foot spiral slide down that you are able to take the slide down if you are feeling adventurous. I have not done it, but it looks like an incredible amount of fun from what I saw online. Once you leave the Vista Point, you will then have a panoramic bus tour of the city of Victoria, seeing a number of the highlights of downtown Victoria. We then have the whale watching and wildlife tour. So whale watching and wildlife tour, you are going to board a boat, and this is your chance if you are interested in trying to see orcas, humpback and minke whales, seals, sea lions, any of the coastal bird life that would be in this area. This would be the tour for you. I did not do this tour last year, but one of our staff members went on this tour and we operated it last year. And it was an overwhelming favorite amongst the guests that did it. One of the highlights of their cruise. So again, beautiful tour with the opportunity to see some wildlife up very close. Cradock Castle and Bouchard Gardens. So these are 2 iconic Victoria landmarks that are going to be combined into one tour. You're going to get to visit the lush garden landscapes of the Bouchard Gardens, and then you're going to get to visit the cultural history of Cradock Castle. So Bouchard Gardens are one of the largest natural gardens in North America. And again, for anyone who has not been there, it's absolutely beautiful. Then Cradock Castle is a National Historic Canadian landmark that is really showcase stained glass, ornate woodwork, and the grandeur of 19th century industrial era. So again, two kind of historic landmarks in one tour on the Crowder Art Castle and Bouchard Gardens. And then last but certainly not least, we have Bouchard Gardens Tea and City Highlights Tour. So you're going to get a narrated tour of downtown Victoria on your way to Bouchard Gardens. Once you arrive to Bouchard Gardens, you'll have time to explore the gardens before then having a traditional classic afternoon tea in the gardens. So again, a very popular tour. We did operate this last year, and again, guests spoke very, very highly of that tour. So that concludes our tours in Victoria. Okay, that was a good overview of all of the various excursions that we have. So I know we have some questions. It looks like one is right here. Can I reserve an SC excursion on board? You can do that. I would advise against that, however. As you may have seen, a number of the tours are fully reserved or very close to fully reserved as we speak. So I would suggest for anyone who has not booked a tour and you're interested in one of the tours that you just heard about to do so in advance before the cruise begins. These tours will more than likely be sold out by the time we get on board. There may be some cancellations that would happen, or guests who unfortunately couldn't make the cruise that might open up a few spots, but I would not bank on that happening. Is there a wait list for fully reserved tours? Aubrey, do you want to take this one?
There are wait lists for our fully reserved tours. So if you go onto our website and see one that is fully reserved, you can join the wait list right there. The other option that you have is a lot of these are running. If you're talking about a San Francisco tour, most of the tours are running on both of the days. So if one of the days is fully reserved, a good idea might be to look at the opposite day. So if the first day is reserved, maybe take a look at the second day and vice versa. Typically, we're seeing that one of them is fully reserved, but the second day is just a little bit behind and has a few open spots. So you can perhaps get that tour on the other day.
When will I receive more info on my tour? That is a great question. I know that many of you, all of you who are already booked on tour have received your first notification.
Those on Smooth Jazz Cruise, Botti is just about.
That's later this week. Those on Chris Botti at Sea, you'll receive your first tour communication later this week. And that's just going to be notifying you that you're booked on the tour and that you're going to be receiving more information. And then 1 month prior to the cruise beginning, so approximately August 11th for the Smooth Jazz and August 18th for Botti at Sea, you'll receive full information on your tour. That will include meeting times and locations, suggestions on what to wear due to forecasted weather in the area. It will really give you a full rundown of what to expect on your day, on your day that you're going on your tour.
And then on board, you will actually receive tickets and kind of a final confirmation.
Correct.
Of your book tour. So you can look for that in your stateroom on embarkation day. And one item to note for those of you who are already booked, and if there is a culinary component to it, please do send us any sort of dietary restrictions. You'll see in that confirmation email that you either just received or about to receive that we did ask for that. And also, if you have any sort of mobility challenges that we should be aware of, most of our tours are accessible friendly, but we do require to know that so that we can make the necessary accommodations. So please let us know as soon as possible, just so we can have enough time to make sure that we're accommodating you appropriately. I think I saw one where people were asking if they are booked on one of the dinners, if they would miss the show at night.
That's a great question. So if you're booked on one of the dinners, we have that information, and on that evening we will just accommodate you in the opposite show.
There's been a few questions about transportation to the concert and whether or not guests will have transportation to and from SF Jazz.
Sure. Great question, Jennifer. And yes, they will. They have transportation to and from SF Jazz. So we will have the guests all meet on board together. We will lead them off the ship at one time. We will have coaches that will take everyone to SF Jazz. And then when the show is over, we'll have coaches there that will take everybody back to the ship.
Again, if we did not answer one of your questions, a team member will be reaching out to you via email, and you can expect an answer very shortly. So thank you all so very much for joining us. We're really looking forward to welcoming you on board in just about 3 months. So crazy that it's coming up so quickly, but they are going to be, each of these sailings are going to be so unique and really, really great. As Brad mentioned, we did this last year for the first time in a long time on our Journey of Jazz cruise going out of the West Coast. And all of the guests really raved about it and had such a great time. And especially, you know, the unique land excursions that we're curating for you. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. And again, a copy of this presentation will be available shortly. It will be on our website, and we will also send you a follow-up email so that you have the link directly. Thanks so much again. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Jean, for joining us. Thanks, Jennifer, for helping out. And we will see you all soon.